Okay, so Grizzlies Warriors game one, off rip. Tough loss to lose the Draymond ejection game if you're Memphis, especially on that last play. That was a really good play call by Taylor Jenkins. It got Ja going downhill, and he may have actually had Brandon Clark on the roll, but even so, the shot that Ja got, it was pretty good. He had the angle on Clay. He got his arm up there for like that scoop shot, but it was just a little too hard off the backboard. Even without Draymond, the off-ball movement was still there for the Warriors, and there was one where Otto Porter was at the top of the key. These were all in the second half with no Draymond, where Steph and Clay both went up to him, and like Steph stopped behind him, and then Clay kept going around him, so it was like a double fake handoff action in a way, and Clay was open for a cut. There was one where Poole set a ghost screen for Steph, which is where you act like you're going to set a screen, but then you just keep going to the wing, and Poole got an open three off of that. We had just your classic Jaren Jackson sagging off of Looney, handoff to Steph, come around, and Jackson was just too low to get a closeout on him like that. Jordan Poole had that super deep three with two dudes on him. There was one where Otto Porter had it in the post. He flipped it to Jordan Poole in the corner, and then in that moment, Clay was also cutting and using Porter in the post as a screen, so then he got a cut at the rim. Steph had a step back over Jaren Jackson. I mean, the Warriors were still the Warriors, including with that last Clay three where he pump faked Desmond Bane off the floor. So that's number one for Memphis. As basic as it sounds, you've got to be ready for all the Warriors stuff that not every team in the league plays. The easy thing to say is switch everything, but some of these actions are not a matter of switching. Like, it's a matter of you can't sag off of Kevon Looney because the next thing you know, here comes Steph for a handoff. You know, it's that sort of stuff. Anyway, this thing was still super close, and for the Grizzlies' sake, the coverages on Ja, specifically around screens, were not as aggressive as they were against the Wolves. He was seeing a lot more daylight. Sure, that you still had your switches. I mean, in the beginning of the game, it was Draymond guarding Xavier Tillman. So when they would run that action, Draymond would switch onto Ja. He sagged off of him. Ja made a couple threes, missed a couple threes. Later on, you might have saw some Kevon Looney drop coverage. You might have seen Looney switching onto him and then basically sagging off of him some more. You saw like Clay switching onto him, and he beat Clay on a switch. He beat Jordan Poole on just an ISO. So Ja, if game one is the sign of what's to come, he's going to have more opportunities than he did against the Wolves to be a scorer. But with the Draymond ejection, it's like, what more could we have seen from that Draymond at center thing versus Ja, whether that is, trapping or hedging, whatever you want to do there. Jaren Jackson went nuts from three. I would say a few of them were not off of defensive breakdowns from the Warriors. They were a little daring from Jaren, and they were early in possessions. Are the Warriors suddenly going to be terrified of Jaren from outside moving forward? We'll see. My guess is that they're still going to be a little adventurous with providing help off of him. Jaren Jackson also got busy in the post a little bit, where there were some possessions where he had Wiggins on him, and it was just, Jaren, go to work, put your shoulder into him, see if you can make a shot over him. He got a couple hook shots. Those were cool. Another thing to talk about is the rebounding in this series, because it will be a theme. Of course, the Grizzlies, they love offensive rebounds, and not being able to, or just not choosing to play Steven Adams for most of round one, it did mitigate some of that. He was not available in this one because of health and safety, so we'll see when he's back. But, it's that thing of, well, do you want to put more size out there against the Warriors for the sake of attacking them more on the glass? But if you do that, then you could be putting a slower guy on the floor. Then when they start running all their Warriors actions and big guys have got to close out to the shooters, we'll see with all that. And relating to that, Jaren Jackson and Brandon Clark played about 30 minutes each, and Xavier Tillman played about 13. Some other stuff. So with the Draymond switching onto Ja, if that is what continues, because again, that was how they started the game, will Ja look to attack Draymond? Will he pass it off, and then will Draymond just dare him to shoot? Can Ja then use that as an opportunity to cut to the basket? A couple smaller things. So Ja was guarding not Steph most of the time, and the Warriors were attempting to get him involved in screens quite a bit, and with Gary Payton II, you can kind of use him as like a Bruce Brown type of role guy, especially if the Grizzlies are not going to give you that switch. The last thing is Desmond Bane and Dillon Brooks. So in the case of Brooks, he had a good amount of pretty open threes that he just didn't make. In the case of Desmond Bane, As basic as this sounds, I think the Warriors just did a good job at guarding his off-ball stuff. Whether that was chasing him, closing out, switching if he got a screen off ball. And also, Steph was on one of those two for a decent chunk of the game. Steph's a good team defender, so that helps. And also, it kind of makes it to where if you want to focus on Steph, then you're running actions with those two, and they're good players, but it's also like, how much is too much stuff run through them for the sake of your offense? I don't know.